the farmer
with Adele,
and
the singer.
Adele. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of ahead of its time. So
he's listening to the sad music. The farmer and Adele.
Gets Adele. He marries Adele, and that's his wife.
Yeah. And that's the music that taught him how to feel.
Yeah. Welcome to Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD required.
We're the podcast that recaps all the episodes of The Big Bang Theory. No spoilers.
So hop into your favorite spot.
Make yourself a grasshopper.
And enjoy the ride. Hello there, Ryan.
Hello, Rob.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Fantastic, because we are entering season 3 of The Big Bang Theory. We're breaking down the electric can opener. Oh my god. The electric can opener Fluctuation. I'm so excited to be in season 3.
Seriously, we made it this far. It's gone by fast.
Very fast, but very slow at the same time. We're getting there. For any new listeners out there, I'm Rob. This is my co-host Ryan. We are Theoretical Nonsense, the podcast that recaps, reviews, and deep dives facts from the Big Bang Theory, which we call IQ points. I've seen the series multiple times, but this is Ryan's first time watching, so we do our best to do no spoilers. Ryan has also been told he's very similar to Sheldon, so we keep a tally point of how close Ryan is to Sheldon.
I'm going to bring that up right now.
Yeah, what was, we finished season 2, so how'd you finish off with season 2?
Season 2 ended with me 67 points, not like Sheldon. 70 points like Sheldon. I think in the last couple episodes, Sheldon had a couple of quirky moments that I related to, and he really jumped up and beyond what I was expecting. I really thought I was going to end this season with not being like Sheldon. So,
yeah, it was neck and neck all of season 2, so we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Season 3 could turn the tides.
Nobody knows.
Well, a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Don't forget to send us an email at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com. We'll read your email. Let us know what you think of season 3. What are you most excited for? Remember, keep that no spoilers, though. Or did you just listen to our recap? Like, what did you think of season 2? What do you think of the series so far? We love engaging with you, so shoot us an email. Also follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Theoretical Nonsense Pod.
It's been a while since we've had an email to read, too, so I miss them.
Yeah, did you forget about us?
Yeah, what happened? We thought you liked us.
Oh, it's okay. We're trucking along, so it's all good. Yeah. And also, Merry Christmas to everyone out there. This is actually launching right before Christmas. So, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Happy Yule, festive Yule.
Yeah.
Okay, electric can opener Fluctuation. Off the bat, I thought it was a pretty strong opener to season 3. Not my favorite episode ever, but not bad either. So yeah, strong start. Some guest stars. I like the setup for what's to come. So air date September 21st, 2009. Writers Chuck Lorre, Bill Prady, and Steve Malaro. Director Mark Sandrowski. We start in the lobby, and the gang is finally getting back from Antarctica, or the Arctic, right? Not Antarctica, the North
Arctic,
Pole, basically. Yep. Yeah. And last time we talked about how we thought that they're probably ending up in North Alaska after some discussion about the different U.S. Research stations. But they get back and everybody has facial hair except for Sheldon. He has some really weird looking goatee.
And it's very well groomed compared to everybody else.
I don't think he was groomed. I thought it was that he just couldn't grow facial hair.
It didn't seem that scruff looking though. So it seemed like it was a little bit more like well put together, whereas everybody else is like kind of bushy, kind of scraggly and everything.
Well, you can see this here. I got some facial bush.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give myself a point not being like Sheldon here. I am
bush face.
Bush face. I've got bush face. And I think after a couple months in the Arctic, I would probably be looking more like this than I would like Sheldon is looking. So, first point of the season goes to not Sheldon. And the guys are complaining that they finally made it through. And Sheldon mentions that he thought it was a hoot and a half. So he's like the only one who had fun. Short lived, but we'll get to that. And Sheldon's talking to his mom. Apparently, he told her when he would call when he got home, but he doesn't consider getting home until he walks into the apartment. And he's starting to brag that he's going to get a Nobel Peace Prize, right? And apparently, she asks if he could fill the church group praying for his safety. And he mentions that this is post hoc ergo propter hoc, which I didn't count this as an IQ point, but that does translate to this for, therefore that. And it's basically a logical fallacy of just because event A happens before event B doesn't mean event A caused B. So I get a lot of this in student writing at, that I have to grade and say, hey, you're making cause and correlation assumptions, and that's what's going on here. And so he says, no, I'm not sassing you with Eskimo talk.
I love
but that's
that.
actually Latin, right? So whatever works. And I would say that furthermore guarantees or suggests that they are in Alaska, because as far as I know, in Greenland, there are no indigenous tribes at all. So, or like in the middle of Greenland, like you can't survive there. So Alaska has more indigenous. Or she might just be making stuff up. So I don't know.
I assume she was making stuff up.
Making stuff up. So Leonard says he's going to go see Penny, and Sheldon sits down in his spot and then sighs and says, Daddy's home. So even though he had his spot in the Arctic, apparently it wasn't as good as his at-home spot. And Leonard says hi to Penny, and she like basically jumps on him and kisses him, right? And I laughed at this. Howard saying maybe he should have gone and told her they were back. And Raj says, yeah, it was a first come, first serve type thing. So I like that little banter. But they're both still sitting there like their mouths are wide open, like, wow. That
I know all this, like, will they, won't they, that they like as an audience member, you're kind of like the same thing. So like they're the audience in the show. So we were just as shocked too. We're like, whoa.
Right. And we knew something was going to happen because last season ended with her saying, I don't want you to go. And he was saying, you hugged me for a little bit longer than was typical. And he liked it.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't think that she was really into him that much. So it shows that she was into him. And like you said before, that if she had said anything at all, it could have put a problem on him actually going and making something more with his career, that this was a chance of a lifetime. So, I thought about that more, and I do kind of respect that, to put your heart on the side and say somebody needs to do something with themselves. So I can see why she kissed him when he got back.
Yep.
Okay, so we're back in the apartment, and Sheldon's saying that he's going to give Raj and Howard a footnote in his memoir and possibly a signed copy, right? Because he couldn't have done it without them, basically.
Kind of a dick move. They did a lot, I'm sure.
Really dick move, so you can't feel so bad with what's going to happen. And they need to tell him something about the North Pole. And Sheldon mentions, if this is about the night the heat went out. And Howard says, we're never supposed to talk about that again.
I love that this runner throughout the entire episode.
Mm-hmm. And it's a great, what would happen if the heat did go out. And, they did what you're supposed to do. I mean, from what I know, I remember watching, what was it? The Voyage of the Minnow or something. In elementary school, our teacher showed us this movie or series that was about a boat that was going to Antarctica, and something went wrong. I mean, it's been probably 25 years since I watched this, so I'm probably misremembering or messing it up. But I remember there's a part where somebody falls into the ice and they have to, I can't remember if it was a girl or a guy, but they have to warm them up. And so they all get naked and get into a sleeping bag. I'm like, Wow, they're naked in there.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. Oh, this is porn.
Hello.
It didn't show anything though. We just all knew. But that's how they saved
You knew what
their
was
life.
happening down there.
I knew. We all knew. So apparently they slept naked together, and Raj saw it as a bonding moment.
Very
And
positive. Yeah.
I like that. That made me laugh quite a bit. I saw it as a bonding moment.
Yeah. That's something you can't undo.
You
You're
take that
bound
back.
for life after that.
Apparently, during the first week while they were up in the Arctic, they weren't getting the results that they were supposed to. And so something happened, and well, I also like that Howard's trying to make this sound sweet. So he says, in the first week, you were acting like a dictator. And Roger's like, I thought we were going to do it nice. And goes, that's why I added tater. So apparently it was worse than the dictator.
Yeah.
And it turns out that they started getting false positives because there was an electric can opener setting off static. And all the data that Sheldon had recorded the whole time was caused by an electric can opener. So all of his information, what he thought he had done and accomplished, goes out the window. And so Sheldon asked, did Leonard know? Apparently it was Leonard's idea. And we shoot to Penny's apartment where she's telling him how much she missed him. And they're getting a little hot and heavy. And then we hear Sheldon's knock. Knock, knock, knock. Leonard? Knock, knock, knock. Leonard? And he says, I'm busy. And so apparently, well, I also like that he whispers, what does he say? Oh, there it is. Whispers don't make a sound, but apparently Sheldon can hear that. And he goes, whispering don't make a sound is making a sound. He goes, Dan has Vulcan hearing.
Which they mentioned earlier, too.
They mentioned earlier, too. I forgot to put that in. But they, as he was walking away, they said it, and apparently he has Vulcan hearing. But I did a short IQ point on this because I didn't realize Vulcans had better hearing. And apparently there's a little discrepancy in what gives them better hearing. Or from what I was seeing, I don't know. But according to Comic Book Resources, CBR.com, in the original series, Star Trek, the original series, Season 2, Episode 22, Return to Tomorrow, they talk about how Vulcans have better hearing than humans because they evolved on a planet that was harsher than Earth, and it required them to have better senses and skills. They also have pointy ears, and some people debate whether or not the pointy ears give them better hearing as well. But as far as I could tell, the pointy ears have nothing to do with their hearing. That was a stylistic choice. And potentially larger ears like that could help with hearing, but it's really based on their evolution as a species on a more daunting, tough, roughened planet that they evolved upon. So a little IQ point. I'm going to count that as an IQ.
We'll count it.
So Penny answers the door, and Sheldon, he makes a snide comment, and I didn't completely understand why he would lash out at her, but it says something about interrupting her poor decision making, and that also kind of, I don't know, hit me the wrong way, because as the audience, we're all rooting for Leonard and Penny to get together, and as Leonard's friend, he might be mad at him, but there's nothing wrong about this decision making at this point. So I thought that was kind of distasteful on Sheldon's part, but anyway,
he was mad and he was kind of lashing out. It's not excusable, but at the same time, it's like, it happens. We've all been there.
That's true, and I don't think she deserved it. But he asks Leonard if he has anything to say about what he did, and this made me laugh. Leonard says he needs to be left alone so he can face self-criticism and repentance. And they hadn't even said what he had done. He just said, leave me alone so I can self-criticize and face repentance. Sheldon explains to Penny about the fake information. And then Leonard explains that it's true, but if they hadn't made Sheldon happy, they probably would have killed him. There were already plans in motion. One was to throw his Kindle outside and just lock him out and freeze him to death. And that was the better option because they are also thinking about strapping him to dog sleds and saying mush as they ripped his limbs apart. So there were several plans. And as we know from last season, the last episode, Howard was making a bow and arrow, right? No, but crossbow. That's what it was.
Sorry, was I muted?
You were muted.
I was gonna say the dog sled thing seems more brutal, but at the end, it seems more instantaneous, though.
I don't know because
like if all of his limbs got ripped off at the same time, would he just instantly go into shock? Whereas freezing to death is a little bit more slow.
But from what I hear, freezing to death's like not that bad. Like that and drowning, like it's kind of calm. And it's not great, but you kind of just go to sleep.
Yeah,
and having your appendages ripped off.
Yeah, I've heard that freezing to death it takes longer, but then you get into that state where your body actually starts feeling warm, and then you start feeling calmer, and then you go to sleep. But it just seems so drawn out. Whereas like the limb thing, it just seems like done, you're dead. But then again, you could probably survive.
I've heard that like even getting your head cut off, like apparently your brain's functioning for a couple seconds after that happens. And so in theory, you can see your body detached from your head before you actually go to black.
Oh my God.
Right? So I don't know. Maybe the limbs won't kill you instantly, but...
Okay. Freeze to death it is.
Right? I don't... that really puts things into perspective. It's terrifying. So they had several ways to kill him. I would say both are better than a crossbow wound that would get infected or whatever. But, you know, maybe if it was a headshot, it would be instant. So they also kept their original data, and Leonard's like, you can publish it. You still accomplish. We didn't erase anything. But Sheldon's irritated because he's already sent out emails bragging about what's gone on. And Leonard's like, well, just send them an email saying you got things wrong. And Sheldon still thinks it's a really big deal and leaves. And Penny feels kind of bad, which I feel kind of weird about since he made that comment about her making poor life choices when he first walked in.
Yeah, he was actually really rude to her like all episode because she got him the pie a little later too. And then he kind of like mocked her and everything. Like she's been nothing but nice. And he's kind of a dick. He's being very childish.
And he wasn't even like part of the decision. She wasn't.
Yeah, she wasn't there.
Yeah.
She would have been the one that threw out the Kindle. Let's face it. If she was there.
Right. At the end of the day, she probably would have initiated the killing session. But she follows him and sees him crying. And she tries to help, right? By singing Soft Kitty. And he goes, that's for when I'm sick, not sad. And I'm like... Again, she's just trying to help, but he also makes a comment about missing Comic-Con, and mentions that he didn't have a sad song when he was a kid. And I was going to look into some sad songs, but that kind of turned into a failed IQ point because they were songs that I don't know. I think Joni Mitchell was like the top one that I saw regularly, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
So if you Google search sad songs, Joni Mitchell's is the top hit.
She's like known for even like what in Love Actually, right?
Yeah.
They mention Joni Mitchell taught the woman to actually feel anything, right?
For me, it's I guess our generation. It's Adele. Kids don't know Joni Mitchell.
What's her name? I'm gonna look this up. The woman who did the Ghost in the Shell series soundtrack, Yoko Kanno. And she's done like a lot of other anime soundtracks, video game soundtracks. She also does her own jazz, but I'm thinking whenever I'm sad, she's what I go to, and she reminds me of like the dreariest days. She has happy music too, but for the most part, I feel like she taught me to feel. And that was before Adele came out, so...
Adele wishes she was her, but not really.
Yeah. Adele's good enough. She has her own thing.
I guess she's popular, and I guess she made
Yeah,
it.
I guess.
I
I guess
guess.
she's good. I don't know. She can sing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that turned out to be a failed IQ point. And Penny says that she knows how Sheldon feels, and again, he's a dick, and says, "What? Were you going to win a prize in Nobel Prize in waitressing?" And she's still very nice and mentions that in high school she heard that she was going to be the head cheerleader, and it turned out that somebody else got the position. And
Valerie
so
Mosswalker.
that's when her mom made the first pie, right?
The celebration pie.
Celebration pie. Apparently it tastes really good, but it's no Nobel Prize. And Sheldon, again, throws another snide comment in there saying, did you really think you were fit to be a cheerleader? Which I didn't even get, because as far as cheerleaders go, I could completely see her being a cheerleader.
Yeah, I guess he's not. I guess he's commenting that she's failing at cheering him up.
I didn't pick that up,
Yeah,
but yes.
It's like, dude, stop being a dick.
That makes a lot more sense for the joke. I was just like, why would he be criticizing her being a cheerleader? But it's because she's not cheering him up. Wow, I wonder why that went over my head.
Gotcha.
So, that answers my question. Why would she not be? So Penny hesitates and then mentions it's like the new Star Trek movie where Kirk has to take over the ship and tell Spock a bunch of lies to make him feel bad so that he can save the day, I guess. And Sheldon breaks down crying, says he missed Comic-Con and the new Star Trek. So it's making things worse.
But I was most shocked that Penny actually went and saw Star Trek.
That too, and I actually did a little IQ point on this because it didn't make sense to me.
That she would see it?
No, when it came out.
It kind of coincided. I actually did the same. Actually, wait, yeah, you're right, because I did a little bit of research on this too, on like when it actually came out and how it coincided with the Big Bang Theory.
What'd you get for it?
So it was the reboot that I'm pretty sure they're talking about in 2009. So I looked into when it released and if it actually tracked with the timeline of Big Bang Theory. It kind of coincided. So season 2 ended on May 11th, 2009.
Mm-hmm.
And then season 3 started September 21st, 2009. Whereas Star Trek, the rebooted movie, launched April 6th, 2009. So theoretically, it would have been in theaters because it was a month before they departed, but it doesn't make sense that they didn't go see it. I think is that what
Weird.
You're going at?
Yeah, I had May 8th, but
What?
April is even worse because if it was April, they would have gone seeing it like opening night, or at least that weekend.
Wait, where did I get April then?
Where did I get May? Oh my god, it actually launched in December.
It was actually in 2008.
Wikipedia says the first air date April 7th at the Sydney Opera House. So that must have been like the
Premiere.
Premiere, yes, that's the word. Man, I am dense today.
Well, let's just sum it up to I looked at the wrong date.
I think it was the premiere. So I think they would have had a chance to see it. And again, the last episode for season 2 aired May 11th, which means that they didn't leave till like the end of May. I think they would have seen it.
It's very possible that they would have made the time to go see it. But at the same time, they did have a lot to pack, and they had, when a Nobel Prize is at their reach, I guess they'll skip it. But then he made it seem like the way he worded it, like I missed Star Trek. Like it sounded like it launched somewhere while they were gone.
Yeah. And like he didn't even know it was coming. Like he knew it was in development, but not that it was coming out, but he would have known. So small IQ point, but I think it's a fair IQ point because time is problematic. Yeah.
Well, either way, the most unbelievable thing is that Penny went and saw it
without them.
Yeah.
If they had been there, I remember it being kind of an action blockbuster, but still, it's Penny. So I feel like she probably would have waited for them because she knew they would drag her to it anyway. So
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like, d- God, does she actually not know what a lot of these like movies are or watch them? Because as an up and coming actress that Penny wants to be, you'd think that she'd watch as many movies as possible, like regardless of like genre.
yeah.
So maybe she did go see it just as like an acting, like, you know what, it's a popular film. I'm trying to be an actress and everything, so let's just see what this is all about.
Or maybe she missed Leonard and it reminded her of him, so
Mhm.
she was doing it because she felt sorry and made her feel closer.
That's true. Yeah.
That's a lot of what
There's
ifs,
a lot of
but who knows?
speculation here.
Yeah. Romance is weird. It could
Yeah.
happen. Alright, so moving forward, they are in the cafeteria, and Howard apparently just has a mustache now. And Raj says that he likes it. Howard's calling it the Clooney. And Raj says, I call it the Mario and Luigi. And
Yeah.
it's a good point. It does look kind of like Mario. They start talking about Sheldon, and apparently Sheldon came out the night before wearing Darth Vader's helmet and tried to use the Force to choke Leonard. And Howard says that his genitals want to know if him and Penny did it. And he goes, tell your genitals it's not their business. And it did make me laugh. Howard looks down and says, they didn't do it.
I laughed at that too.
Because it says, Leonard is acting high and mighty and classy, but if they had done it, he would let them all know, right?
Yeah, let's face it.
Yeah.
Like, we do that.
It's too exciting to hold it back, yeah. And she probably would let her friends know because it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And as we see at the end of the episode, it's going to be a bigger deal. So Sheldon comes in and starts to do the force choke, and Raj starts to act like he's choking. And I like that out of Raj. He's like, I felt bad for the guys.
He's being a good friend.
He's a good friend. And Leonard tries to apologize again. And we have the guest appearance, Barry Kripke, right? Coming in and making fun of Sheldon. And he says that he saw the retraction email and says people must have been pointing... Oh, that's right. Sheldon mentions that he feels like people are pointing and laughing at me because of that. And Kripke goes, no. They've been doing that your whole life. I'm like, that's kind of a jerk move, but I could see somebody... Like, Kripke's not known for being a nice person, right?
Yeah, he's not a friend. He's obviously like, nobody likes him. He doesn't like them. And yeah, he's just an asshole.
His robot killed their robot. Yep. So Sheldon gives a speech, admits he's had a setback, but there's no such thing as a failure in science. And I like that positive thinking. I don't know if he actually believes it. He says there was once a man who referred to the prediction of a cosmological constant as the biggest blunder of his career, and that man was Albert Einstein. I get into an IQ point here. Did you do anything on this?
I did. I did the same one.
Take over. I want to hear what you have.
All right. So both of us looked into Einstein's biggest blunder. So I didn't know what this was, and this is a kind of an explanation of what it was. It's talking about the cosmological constant. And I found out this information on Wikipedia, Forbes, Big Think, and Live Science. So it's very well known in the science world of this blunder. In 1915, the cosmological constant was created as a constant value that was added to the field equations of general relativity. Oh my god. We're having a hard time talking tonight.
It's a tough day. It's starting season 3 is just too much on
us. Our brains are exploding. Well, it was added to the field equations of general relativity in order to balance the calculations. At the time, it was believed that the universe and all its galaxies were static, neither expanding nor contracting. But Einstein's work suggested that gravity would cause it to do one or the other. So, to mesh with the scientific consensus, Einstein inserted a fudge factor, denoted by the Greek letter lambda, into his results, which kept the cosmos still. Yet a little over a decade later, the American astronomer Edwin Hubble noticed that the galaxies were actually moving away from us, indicating the universe was expanding. Einstein called lambda his greatest mistake. Hubble's observations negated the need for a cosmological constant for decades. But that changed when the astronomers examining distant supernovas in the late 1990s discovered that the cosmos was not only expanding, but accelerating in its expansion. They named the mysterious anti-gravity force required to account for this phenomena dark energy. In the 1920s, Russian physicist Alexander Friedmann developed an equation, now called the Friedmann equation, which describes the properties of the universe from the Big Bang onward, according to an online tutorial from Georgia State University. By dusting off Einstein's lambda and plugging it into the Friedmann equations, researchers could model the cosmos correctly, that is, with an accelerating expansion rate. This version of the Friedmann equation now forms the backbone of the contemporary cosmological theory, which is known as lambda CDM, where CDM stands for cold dark matter and accounts for all the known components of reality. So just like that, Einstein was right all along. But too bad he wasn't alive to actually see his mistake be corrected.
And it's from my understanding, I looked at Scientific American. It's basically he didn't realize that the universe, the Big Bang theory, right, is pushing or started pushing things away from each other. He thought everything was static and still, and so he was like, this creation, this constant doesn't make sense, but with it being pushed away from each other, it does make sense. It explains everything. So, like you said, he wasn't alive for seeing that there's actually a reason for having this and why it exists. The other thing I wanted to add to that was I found on Scientific American that Russian scientist George Gamow claimed Einstein said it. But there's some debate whether Einstein actually ever even said that. It just kind of became famous for him saying it, and other scientists have been accredited the same saying, but he may not have been the one who said it. But there is still the notion that he created this constant and had no understanding of, or some confusion over why it was there and if it was a mistake or what was going on because of the acceleration of the universe expanding. So yeah.
Nice, and now we know a little bit more.
A little bit more about Einstein. Okay, so they mentioned research proved Einstein was right all along, which means Sheldon research still proves he's wrong.
Still a loser. A woozer.
Yeah, a woozer, right? That's And Sheldon says to check an email for a retort because he can't think of one. And I appreciate that.
He did that to Leslie in season 1, I think.
I was going to say, it sounded familiar because she was just too quick and witty for him to keep up with. So he's like, look for an email for me.
When I think of the right thing to say.
Yeah, when I think of it. And so there looks like there's going to be no more friendship with Sheldon. And Raj says they'll always have that night the heat went out. I like the reference back to that. And Raj is so, like, it's a good bonding experience.
Yeah, he has a positive outlook on it.
And so they're back
before we move on, we skipped over something that I looked into. When they approach Sheldon and he's kind of where he rejects their friendship. He's like, I have no friends. I'm the proverbial cheese. I stand alone. I didn't know what he was talking about. I did not know what, like, proverbial cheese. What cheese is he talking about? And why does he stand alone?
I've heard that before, but now that you mention it, I don't know either.
Yeah.
What was it?
So I looked into that because I was like, what is he talking about? Tell me more about this cheese and can I eat it?
The cheese stands alone. The cheese
Yes,
stands
it
alone.
is.
Right?
And I,
Dario. That's
yeah.
right.
So I did not know what this meant. I've never heard this until Big Bang Theory. I never looked into it. I've heard about it because every time I rewatch this episode, I'm like, okay, that's interesting. But I
What the
never
hell is
looked
that
into it.
cheese?
But it's exactly
I
what
like
you
cheese.
said. It's from the song The Farmer in the Dell. It basically is a reference to being the odd man out, which is also a game, and it first appeared in writing in 1826 in Germany, where it was taken to America in 1883. And the game, if you're interested in how to play the game goes on as such. All the children stand in a circle, with one child in the center who plays the farmer. The farmer chooses another child as the wife, who chooses another child as the son or the daughter, who chooses a nurse, and so on. The last child chosen is the cheese. The cheese doesn't choose anyone and
Ah.
stands alone in the center of the circle. So this sounds like a terrible game that gives children horrible self-esteem. It's being picked last for sports, It's like, what the fuck?
Right?
It's like,
But it's not even a sport. It's just you're last.
You're last. No one chose you. Loser.
Ha ha.
But I never heard this. I mean, I guess I've heard bits and pieces of the song. But there are different variations of it and everything. So, pardon my terrible singing, but I'm going to do it anyways.
Go for it. Sing for us, Rob.
So it goes like the farmer in the dell, the farmer in the dell. Hi ho, the dairy-o, the farmer in the dell. The farmer takes a wife, the farmer takes a wife. Hi ho, dairy-o, the farmer takes a wife. And then it goes on to the child, the nurse, the cow, the dog, the cat, the mouse, and then the cheese. And the cheese.
And I just want
alone.
to clarify, you're saying the farmer and the dale, like a bird?
The dell. The farmer in the dell.
So it's not the farmer and Adele?
It said the lyrics I found was in the dell, not Adele.
In the dell.
It's not with the farmer
with Adele,
and
the singer?
Adele. Yeah, I mean it's kind of ahead of its time. So.
He's listening to the sad music. The farmer and Adele.
Adele. He marries Adele, and that's his wife.
Yeah. And that's the music that taught him how to feel.
Yeah.
Farmer and Adele.
Yeah.
I'm never going to listen to that the same again.
But that's where I learned the cheese stands alone.
That makes sense. Like, I forgot I even knew that song until you started talking about it. I'm like, wait, I do know a little bit about this.
It's funny because it's a nursery rhyme, and it must be very old because I've never, with all the stuff that I've been watching with Hunter and everything like that, this song has never popped up. Well, let us know in the comments. I know, Tim, if you're out there, you got a little one. Do you know this song? Did you sing this to your kid?
He created it.
Yeah. He's the farmer, and his child is Adele.
Of course. It all makes sense. He is the farmer. Wow. Okay, so we are at Penny's, and Leonard gives her a gift. She has no idea what she's looking at. It's a little slide. But apparently it's a snowflake from the North Pole. And I thought that was really cute. And I also did an IQ point into how this works.
I did too. But I just took the last one, so...
Fair enough. I'll take over. I think it's funny because Leonard says all these big words. What's he said? 1% polyvinyl acetate resin. Cyanocrylates are monomers which polymerize. He's talking about super glue.
Elmer's super glue.
Elmer's super glue. I looked at popsci.com, and you can actually do this at home. You get a slide, and you have to have the runny thin glue. Gel glue doesn't work, but you get the runny super glue, and apparently super glue is what's called monomers, and as they harden, apparently water vapor triggers them to harden. They start to form, or what they say is polymerize and harden and stick together. And apparently because it's water vapor that triggers it, that's why it dries on your, I say dry, but it's water vapor that causes it. It hardens on your skin more quickly than on what you're gluing together. And so what you do is you catch a flake on the slide, you put a drop of super glue on it, you put a cover over it, and you throw it in the, you probably don't throw it, put it in the freezer for 2 weeks, because what you're looking for is that super glue to harden without or before the snowflake melts. So you have to be really careful to make sure that, I guess if you're in the Arctic, you just leave it outside, but it hardens and the glue fills in all the nooks and crannies of the snowflake and preserves the actual structure of it. And so I thought it was funny that he was using all these big words, but it's, super glue that snowflake together.
Yeah, like it does not require a lot of materials to do. Anybody could do it. So the next time it snows, you don't need a lot of like there are certain things that will help the process, like having a dark sheet of paper and stuff like that, so you can actually see the snowflakes better. And remember to keeping every material like needs to be as cold as possible. Like you want to freeze everything. Like put your microscope slides in the freezer. The site that I said was you could use a paintbrush as a way to kind of like move the snowflakes from one area to another without having to touch it and everything, because your hand will probably be too warm and then it'll melt it.
That's what this place said, tweezers, but I'm like, I'd break it.
Oh,
like trying to tweeze some snowflakes. Like I couldn't do
apparently
that.
like it with a fine tip paintbrush, you should be able to just kind of touch and grab like a snowflake and move it around.
That actually makes a lot more sense than tweezers.
Yeah. And then like make sure you wear gloves so you don't insulate heat. Make sure everything's frozen. The paintbrush, the slides, the paper, everything as cold as possible. And then it's like you said, just once you get it, put it on the slide, drop that super glue on it, cover it, and then there it is. So that could be that's a solid move. A snowflake from the North Pole.
That is that's romantic.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I also have to say, when he said polyvinyl acetyl resin, it reminded me of being a kid, and a project that we did was take resin and, did you ever do this where like you put flowers in a cup and then you pour resin over it and you pull the cup apart and it's like a block of flowers that are preserved forever?
No.
I don't remember when I did that or why I did that, but I remember the freaking smell of the resin. It was like super glue smell, and it was like all the kids were like, whoa, like feeling high.
Yeah, I'm gonna sniff this along with these markers too.
These flowers smell real good.
I can see them floating around now.
We're all floating. Okay, so that's the snowflake. Raj and Howard come in and say Sheldon has run away. Sheldon's mom has called and said, has gone home to Texas and someone needs to talk to him. So Leonard does the best friend thing and says, Howard and Raj, you go and I'll stay here if he comes back. And so, but
Howard also said red alert. I was surprised he didn't say code red.
Oh, I missed that, but yeah. Which is an IQ point from a previous episode.
Yeah, the materials turbulence.
And it heads up, it has something to do with Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew.
Something. It's the dew.
Do the dew.
Do the dew. Code red. So Penny pushes Leonard into going. She's being the sweetheart here, even though Sheldon was not very nice to her. Raj agrees Leonard can't catch a break. So apparently he's noticing that Leonard is not getting the extra minute of peace and quiet to figure things out with Penny, but who cares? So they are in Texas.
Well, I love that Mrs. Cooper actually calls Leonard too. And it's like, and you can just hear the conversation going like, it's your fault, right? Yes, I know it's pretty much my fault.
But you can't blame him too much because the alternative was killing Sheldon. So
Yeah. You could have a dead son right now.
yeah, we did you a favor.
Maybe not.
So Mary Cooper guest stars again. Laurie Metcalf, right?
Yeah, I think is it
Is that how you pronounce it? Metcalf.
Metcalf.
Metcalf?
I've always said
All right.
Metcalf.
I'm horrible at pronouncing anything, so I don't trust what I say.
I guess we could have looked up an interview and seen how they said her name, but
my name is Ryan.
Ryan.
Anyways, Mary Cooper guest stars, and she's always a hoot and half, as Sheldon would say.
Mm-hmm.
I like her, and they're eating dinner, and they have to pray before they eat. And I get a point for being like Sheldon here because she goes, "Was that really so hard?" And he goes, "My objections weren't based on considerations other than were based on considerations other than difficulty." And that is, I feel like I'm not super religious or spiritual, but I have an issue with being forced to pray or sing before I eat dinner. And it is, difficulty praying before a meal. I bite my tongue quite a bit, but it feels weird. It's difficult. I think it stems from story time. So my dad's an atheist. My mom was raised Catholic, but not very religious. Did I ever tell you about this? They sent me to Bible camp.
Maybe you did. It doesn't sound familiar, but sometimes I don't pay attention.
That's fair, yeah. I don't know how to pronounce names, so we all have our struggles. They sent me to Bible camp, and which is weird because I don't think I knew it was Bible camp when I was going. It was like an overnight summer camp for a couple weeks. And my dad's an atheist, so I'm sure he was just laughing all the way to the bank, like, Ryan's got to go to Bible camp. And my mom's like, whatever. And I remember they made us sing before eating. And I don't know why, but that has, like, if we didn't sing, we couldn't eat. Or maybe in my mind, that's what it was. They're probably nicer than that. But to this day, I associate with, like, almost like I go feral. Like, you're going to make me sing before I eat? You're going to make me pray? I'm just going to take my food and run!
Wait, is that what you did when you were a kid? You just grabbed it and ran?
I
ransacked the pantry?
I think I ran one night. I'm like, you know what? I don't even want to eat. So I just like left the dining room. Like I was, I have issues with authority like that, I think.
So how dare you tell me what to do?
Make me, I don't have to sing for my food. So I still have, that's just made it worse in my head. I don't like, so anyways, my objections are based on considerations other than difficulty because it's not hard to sing or pray before a meal, but there are other objections.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, that's my story time. 1 point for being like Sheldon there because I don't think anybody else would have as much of a problem as he did.
Well, I did. So I did enjoy that scene just because I do like seeing the relationship between him and his mother. Like, it's definitely you could definitely tell that there's a lot of history. Like with that, like he knew the words like so well. He knew what was coming and everything. So it's like, you dive into his past a little bit. Like that.
You're right. I didn't make much of a note of that, but he finishes her sentences. She like stops and he has to finish every phrase.
Like, I know it's a small scene, but it kind of unpacks so much of their history and their relationship.
Mm-hmm. And so he thanks his mom for carving a smiley face into the grilled cheese, and she makes a racist comment saying it's kind of squinty eyes, so you can imagine the sandwich is Chinese, right?
As an Asian, I will say I laughed my ass off on that. So
what made me laugh was Sheldon cringing.
Yeah,
like he kind of gives this look like, God.
Like, Mom, what the hell? And I think that's why I was okay with it too, because the writers were very self-aware, like, ooh, that's not appropriate.
That's exactly right. Not but also she's a pretty nice person, so she doesn't mean bad, but at the same time, like, Jesus. Right? So yeah, good point. So they talk about what happened and why he's so upset, and he mentions the neighbor kids making fun of him because they didn't realize that they were just angry that he was so smart. And she looks at him and says, "Oh, honey, they knew why they hated you." It's honest, but it's true, so it was funny. Now we're in a car, and the gang are driving in. They've caught a red eye, right? And they're driving in to get Sheldon. And apparently Howard has bought a red cowboy hat. And he goes, well, it has to match my red turtleneck. Plus, it was the only one in my size, right? So, and Raj mentions that this is not the Texas he grew up seeing in movies. So he's really confused. But Leonard mentions that Costco over there probably has steaks for sale. So they're all kind of out of touch and out of base in Texas, right?
Yeah, I wanted to look up I forgot to highlight this, so I wanted to look up what these movies were, but I didn't get a chance to. The movies that Raj watched, Four for Texas and Yellow Rose of Texas. I would imagine they're very just classic, stereotypical westerns.
Yeah, I didn't even make a note of them. I think I was just kind of laughing and missed him mentioning actual movies, but I assume that they're real movies, so...
Should we look them up really quick now?
Yellow Rose?
Four for Texas and Yellow Rose of Texas. Well, Four for Texas is Frank Sinatra. This looks... the cover looks very strange. People are riding on top of each other.
On top, like riding sex,
like the person on the bottom is a horse, and they're on their hands and knees, and the person is on top of them, like kind of riding.
Oh, I'm seeing it now. They're riding each other. Okay, so I found Yellow Rose of Texas, 1944. Director Joseph Kane, writer Jack Townley, starring Roy Rogers. That says a lot. Roy, an insurance agent working undercover as a showboat singer, is awaiting the appearance of a supposed bank robber who has broken out of jail. Roy tries to recover the stolen money from the unassuming crook. And of course, there's romance.
And then Four for Texas is 1963. Starring Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Anita Ekberg, and Ursula Andress. Director Robert Aldrich. It's about sharpshooters Zach Thomas and Joe Jarrett are in a Texan stagecoach and manage to fight off Matson's robber gang. So after they can fight over the $100,000 cash carried by the railroad official.
They sound like Texas movies.
Texas.
Oh, that cover for Four for Texas, that's something that we need to show our audience. That is,
Well, they're real movies. We did the research. It is now an IQ point.
IQ point.
Boom.
Counts. Boom. Okay, so they are at Sheldon's house now, and Howard is sauntering in. He wants to blend in, and I like Raj's response. To what? Toy Story? And like when you hear that and you look at him, you're like, he does kind of look like
Woody.
He looks like Woody. And so the mom answers the door, and Howard says, I could really use a Lone Star beer, right? Yeah. And it reminds me of like King of the Hill, where they're like an Alamo, right?
Yeah.
And she says there's no alcohol in the house and tells him to lose the hat and stop talking with an accent.
Yeah.
And he takes off the hat and is basically like, I'm sorry. Right?
I'll take a Diet Yoo-hoo instead.
Yes. And then she goes up to Raj and says, oh, you're still having trouble talking to the girls? Well, there's a church healer who might be able to help purge that third world demon out of you that's keeping you quiet. And he's just like,
Maybe it will help.
And then Leonard says, hey, we have to catch a red eye back. Let's get this over with, kind of. And she goes, a girl? And he goes, yeah. And she goes, good, we've been praying for you. So that praying comes back in. And so Sheldon comes out and they ask him to come back. And he goes, no, this is my home now. I'll stay here and teach evolution to creationists. And the mom says, everyone is entitled to an opinion. And he goes, it's not opinion, it's fact. And he goes, that's your opinion. I am one point like Sheldon here. This would send me packing.
I was like, okay, time to go.
I find myself a little sensitive when people say evolution is an opinion. I remember my high school girlfriend, we would get into fights because she didn't believe in evolution. And I remember saying, like, you get a flu shot every year. Why is that? And she goes, well, the flu virus changes. I go, that's evolution. And she goes, no, it's not the same. Yes, it is. So, I feel for Sheldon here. I would probably be like, okay, I forgive you guys. We're going home. And we flash forward to the ending. We are at Penny's. Leonard and Penny are in bed. They have finally caught a break. And Leonard starts going off with, why does this have to be weird? It doesn't have to be weird. We're friends, and friends can do this and move to something else, and it was special. And she's kind of nodding, but her face says no. And she goes, Leonard, it's weird. And he goes, it's totally weird. And that's where it ends. So apparently, even though they catch a break, it's not a real break, and we don't know where it's going to go from there.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
And that's the end of episode 1 of season 3.
We are almost knee deep in season 3. We're testing the waters, let's just say. We're dipping our toe. It's episode 1.
We got some guest stars. We're starting off.
I thought it was a strong start. I like that it just kind of carried on from where we left off. I like that they finally just kind of dove in. They kind of just didn't mess around. Leonard and Penny just went for it. It's too bad that it's weird, but I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Make it work. You work through the weird.
Yeah, you pound through it.
Yeah, you pound through it. You ride each other like horses until it's not weird.
4 for Texas, baby.
4 for Texas.
Anything else to add to this episode?
I think that's all I have.
Yeah, strong start. We're in season 3. We're very excited to carry on with the rest of this season. That's it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being a fan. Don't forget to shoot us an email. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Gingerly tap that like button. Follow us on Instagram at Theoretical Nonsense Pod. Also on TikTok as well. Email us at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com. And we will see you next time when we discuss Season 3, Episode 2, The Jiminy Conjecture. I thought I was going to say that wrong.
And if this comes out, happy holidays, everyone.
Yeah, happy holidays. Yeah. Merry Christmas. Whatever holiday, if you celebrate
happy
them.
Kwanzaa,
happy Hanukkah.
Merry
anything.
Hanukkah.
Happy holidays.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again.
Merry Krampusnacht.
This was Theoretical Nonsense, Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD required. Our intro and outro music is by Alex Book, and our logo is by John Kim. Thanks for listening. Gotcha.